So we are in a lightning round today with 20 minutes to talk about and get insights on Google's announcement about deprecating the tracking cookie soon. We all know what this is, so let's get advice on what we do. I'm going to start us off with Alastair today because he's not wearing the most amazing hat that he was wearing the other day. So you guys will have to search for a photo of that. So Alastair, you're ex-Google, you're ex-gaming, gaming and gambling. It's an industry that's very, very rich in first-party data from users transacting literally all day. What are you going to do at Property Finder for continued growth?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, I guess I'll start off by saying a lot of those industries that are blessed with all that first-party data don't necessarily use it in the best way, but that's probably for another panel. Look, I think those kind of industries where first-party data isn't as prevalent and is never going to get to 100% logged-in users are having to change the way that they operate and how they look at their users and how they treat their users. At Property Finder, we're really trying to examine that kind of value exchange that we have with the users that use our platform. I think probably the most obvious example from that is probably from another industry when you look at publishing, who have even less first-party data, right? And there's been that ongoing trend over the last, I guess, 2 years or so, where it kind of get that pop-up that says you've read your 6 or 7 free articles for the month, you now need to log if you want to read more, right? You only do that if the publication and the content you're being provided is decent, right? And there's a number of kind of websites and stuff that I no longer go to because that value exchange isn't there. I don't think it's enough for me to give my details to. So I guess the point is that that value exchange only works if the content or the value that you're providing as a brand is worth it. In terms of what else we've been doing, we've been trying to get ahead of this for the last kind of year and a half. I went through kind of GDPR in the UK. And it was an absolute nightmare. And obviously, we've been coming for a very long time, right? It's happened with Safari and Firefox, and we knew that Chrome was going to roll this out. And internally, as a business and as somebody that kind of sits across a number of teams, the first priority was how do we start to break down those data silos that exist in the company, right? We used to have user data that sits on an ad platform times by 4. We had stuff that sat in our CRM platform. We had stuff that sat in just databases and S3 buckets and all various other places. Just technically, how do we bring all of that together? How do we start to move towards that idea of having a golden record of our users? That is the first step. So without understanding that, there's no way we can then go on to start to understand what is the value exchange that we can provide. And that's then the next kind of stage we're now doing as a business, is really trying to experiment around, okay, what are the kind of points of good friction within the experience that we have that we can potentially kind of have that value exchange with users in order to get them to log in, to get more services from it. And then the final thing, of course, is just education, right? Like 2 years ago when I came back into the business, I sat people down and I was like, ITP is a big problem, right? And people were looking at me like I was talking about a weird tennis tournament or something like that, right? So I've been spending 2 years really trying to educate across departments, right? This impacts finance departments, legal departments, all other kinds of departments. And that's been probably one of the hardest tasks, is getting people in teams that aren't data focused or marketing focused or user focused to care about this as being a huge problem that's going to impact the business across the board.
Yeah, thanks, Alastair. You talk a lot about a lot of the things that I'm looking at Balaji that he really cares about. Looking at acquisition growth in your responsibilities, Balaji. Are you going to have to deprioritize stuff like ad targeting to move completely to people-based marketing?
So I would say that the jury is out there yet, right? So obviously, at one level, we've always been focused on people-based marketing, and ad tech is only a way to do that, right? So obviously, the core strategy still remains people-based marketing. From how we will change our approach in a cookieless world, I think one is sharpen our capabilities around MarTech and first-party cookie, and how do we make sure that we are able to leverage the full power of the first-party data. Continue to leverage second-party data from all the tech vendors or the walled gardens. Now, Google is essentially becoming a walled garden, just like Facebook or an Amazon. So continue to work with second-party publishers which is all of the tech leaders. Also look at a partnership with second-party publishers who have information, right? So obviously now publishers are going to have the data, and they are going to figure out how we can partner directly to leverage the information that they have and be able to do cluster-based marketing. The third thing that I think we will be on the hunt for is other, I would say, secure open internet targeting systems, like probably a visual DNA or the universal ID that a lot of people are talking about, because at some point in time, there is still the opportunity of the open internet, right? And how people are coming together to try and say that we should build systems that are still secure, that are still that protect the privacy of the customer, but still able to deliver personalized instances of internet to people, rather than what's going to happen is much more a broad stroke. Hey, you look like Steve, so therefore you get to see this ad. So I think that's the third hunt in terms of trying to find partners who will protect privacy, but at the same time deliver secure ad tech to organizations.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. We brought up, obviously first party, second party, third party, all super important in what we're thinking about. So now I'm looking at you, Vimal. I mean, as our resident agency guy, if these guys were your clients, I mean, what would you be telling them to do about their strategies?
It's a good point, Steve. I think from our perspective, and obviously I think Alastair was talking about starting now, but from our angle and from our lens, I think you need to look at it I guess from a strategic point of view and also from a functional perspective. So I mean, strategically, you want to be talking to people and not proxies, and I guess people-based marketing it's been our North Star for several years, and it's the answer as we transition into a cookieless world, and ultimately you should be focusing on identity and breaking down those silos that you might have within your business to understand who your customers are and understand how that data connects. I think from a functional point of view, there still be ways to track potential customers. How do we de-anonymize them as they revisit your website through email campaigns, through social, through app, and how we match that unknown website visitor profiles. I think we've done some really good work with some CDP vendors like Tedium in the region to help gather, store, manage, and enrich customer data, and then help businesses leverage that data into your marketing strategy. So, I think there's two angles you need to look at. The other thing is we are all in the same boat. We are all in uncharted waters. I think the most important thing is for businesses is to start now. We have some time to plan and figure out what this looks like and how it will impact your marketing strategies. So I think, as Alastair said, understand your current data architecture, understand what and if any first party you do have, and how do we start moving forward with that.
Yeah, great. I'm going to add, just for myself, looking at this as well, and Vimal brought up a great point with CDPs, which I think are going to be a critical strategy for folks to be able to leverage into what they're looking at in expanding the way that we look for our customers, and expanding and enriching the ways that we really work on the existing customer data that we've got in the space. I want to talk about CDPs for a second because that came up, and obviously it's just really one of the hottest things right now. But I want to get underneath the surface of that, right? Because we have folks right now who really actually understand customer data and understand how these kinds of platforms or concepts actually can be utilized for working in this in the future and helping us. They deal exclusively in first-party data and can probably help us fill the gap that we are seeing in the future. So I'm going to go back to you, Alastair. I have to imagine that you are, if you mentioned value exchange, you probably are all value exchange all the time, at this point when you're looking at these digital touch points. So have you thought about a CDP to help strengthen user identity to map out what your users might want?
Yeah, 100%. We're a partner with Telium, which we're kind of using in order to kind of get that golden record and to consolidate that data, to think about media orchestration, how we think about media wastage, as well as things like consent and importantly privacy for users as well, on the assumption that some form of GDPR, like in Egypt, has already begun, will start to land in the UAE. But look, I guess my point I want to make though, like with all of these things, right, it's not a silver bullet, right? My mantra is a slightly bluer version of what I'm going to say, but it's rubbish in, rubbish out, okay? And it doesn't matter whether you have Telium, whether you have any kind of technology, if you're not feeding in good information, good data, good insight into it, the outputs of it aren't going to be there, right? And it's important, and I know this having spent 2 years at Google selling stuff and trying to get people to drink the Kool-Aid, right? There's a big difference between the pitch deck and the reality, right? So always skip forward maybe to slide 12 of the deck, and that's where you start to get into the meat of what the tool can do for you, and most important, what the tool can't do for you, and that's the most important thing from my point of view. And also, that can't be the only solution that you've got, right? Again, as an industry, we're starting to thankfully go back to some of the slightly kind of more traditional ways of doing advertising. We're all starting to understand the things like doing always on long-term branding, kind of based on broader reach audiences, is super, super important for the brand health of your business and the commercial health of your business. And again, it's about kind of implementing all of these different kind of elements that can help create a defensive mode for you as a business that play into it. Certainly for us, a CDP though is going to be kind of central to our MarTech stack moving forward, alongside some of our other partners as well.
Yeah, great. I couldn't agree more with that. Balaji, if you want to talk about CPs, if you do, you can do so. If you don't, I won't blame you. But I know that with what's going on, Google's been talking about everything that we're looking at as a move towards securing privacy, customer privacy, data privacy, privacy on the side of the clients, the brands we work with also. Obviously, at a bank with Standard Chartered, that's extremely important. So do you agree that this is a move towards customer privacy? And how are you going to deal with this kind of persistent consent that you've got to gather and the customer wishes that are embedded inside of that?
So I think first things first is I think privacy is a core tenet of the Standard Chartered ecosystem. So fully supportive of, I would say, broad-based the ad ecosystem or the ad industries move towards building in more privacy for customers on the internet. So I agree to that, right? Second question is Google's approach to privacy? I would say it's in their lenses, right? The question is, it's their perspective of what is privacy, but is that the entire ecosystem's view of privacy? I am not so sure yet. The jury is out there on that. Mm-hmm. Second thing is, it is kind of going to numb the whole approach to personalization in terms of what people want to see and how relevant is the material that is going to be shown to them in the ecosystem. So I would say that there is still opportunity for a good balance where a customer's privacy is protected while there is still some amount of personalization still possible. So I think that the solution could happen now in future. It's about how the entire ecosystem comes together. Right now, I feel that this particular move by Google is right. But the question is, has it solved for what the customers want, what the ad tech wants, what the publishers want, what the marketers want? I'd say at some level, it is solved for some aspects of it, but not all aspects of it. So we'll have to see how that pans out. So like I said in my previous response, I'd say that we will continue to look into the space, continue to evolve our MarTech capabilities. That's a non-stop process. We are enhancing and continuing to roll out always the latest of capabilities in markets. We will continue to work with second-party publishers and second-party tech providers, but the hunt for that third-party secure way to personalize, I think that's still on, and I think that ecosystem will eventually come out, because there are folks who are trying to definitely problem solve for this.
Yeah, I think that's it's a great segue into one of the things I wanted to bring up, which is, obviously we're talking about first party data a lot, and everyone's saying we've really got to get into it in a very full way. Just getting to first party data doesn't solve for reach issues, right? When we're looking at the loss of tracking, like at the loss in general of that third party ecosystem, second party IDs that that happen. Now I'm looking at Vimal and his Merkle logo and his dynamic background. I've been looking at Merkle for a lot of really good content in this area, and there's when we're looking at the customer data arena as a whole, Vimal, can you actually talk about, like, how do you guys look at helping businesses leverage first party data, but also when we're looking at reach issues, what are some of the things that you guys are doing for clients?
Yeah, so I think it hinges around kind of three areas, and it's about not only what the first party is, but also what do you do with it afterwards, right? So I think from our perspective, if you have your first party data, make sure it's centralized, and make sure you're using it as a single source of truth. I think that's key. Make sure you have the right infrastructure and the right foundations to leverage that first party data across different channels, be it a marketing cloud, be it CRM, be it CDP. And then from our perspective, I think Balaji mentioned it earlier, but you want to personalize the entire experience. So as an agency, we're supporting our clients around working towards a segment of one, where we can really help identify an individual's journey in such a way that we can offer an incredibly personalized communication, be it next best offer or next best action. So that's around how we really want to help businesses leverage their first party data. I said earlier, it's kind of been our North Star for a while. So it's something we have really been trying to work with clients on, and how they use that, use it and build on it in order to kind of inform their marketing strategies. But like I said earlier, they need to have the right infrastructure in place before you can start leveraging it and having it as a single source of truth. I think from there, mid to long term, you want to really start leveraging your first party data and start evolving your CRM strategies. How do you start layering in advanced analytics to model against that data? And again, how do you start personalizing the entire customer journey through your digital media ecosystem? So you're constantly using your first party data to evolve your marketing strategies and understand how you continually develop a better customer experience, which is an ongoing and ongoing cycle for your clients and for businesses we work with.
Well, first of all, guys, we have like barely any time for this session. We've got like 2 seconds left, at this point. So there's a really nice, kind of end right here. But the last thing I'll say is that with this move, I personally don't believe that Google would make such a big move if it threatened their revenue long term. Right? They tend to take a long term view on what's going on. And Alastair shaking his head from the inside. So, as a free thing at the end, if anybody has anything to say to kind of close, do you agree or disagree? How do you feel about that? They're watching.
Yeah, no, most of the money's made from search. They're not gonna lose too much sleep over it. In fact, it's better for them because it means they can try and move clients away from the obsession with conversion and making sure everything has the lowest possible kind of cost per lead or cost per action. And worst comes to worst, they can always just add another ad slot at the top of the SERPs, so it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is it's not new, right, what they're doing. I mean, Alastair mentioned earlier, I mean, this started back in 2017 with the rollout of ITP. So what they're doing is iterating what is already being done by some of the unregulated tech companies. So yeah, that's definitely not going to impact their bottom line. I think we're all kind of waiting to see how it affects businesses, but this isn't new. You know, we're just seeing a different iteration being rolled out by the biggest tech company globally.
I think the ones who are going to get badly impacted are the small publishers who probably rely on content to try and drive their business revenues. But I think those are the ones who are going to take the bigger hit here.